So by me pretty much blindly trusting somebody that I met on a Facebook group in a different state, fast forward after doing 6 deals with that partner, yeah, things didn't go too well with him. But the things that I learned from just those first 6 properties with him was so valuable.
Today's conversation explores what it really takes for real estate investors to scale midterm rentals remotely and why the systems and the grit determine whether growth creates freedom or burnout. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Freedom Blueprint. I'm Adrienne Green, and today we're here with Bailey Kramer. Here we focus on how real estate entrepreneurs break free of the grind using leverage, support, and smarter strategies. Let's go ahead and jump in with Bailey here. So to ground everyone, can you give us a quick snapshot of your real estate business today? You know, your portfolio size, asset type, and what are you focused on right now?
For sure. And thanks again for having me on. So my name is Bailey. I currently own 10 units that I rent out strictly as midterm rentals. And then 9 units are single families. And then 1 is a triplex.
Now, I understand you've tried some different strategies along the way, flips, long-term, short-term, and now you're really into midterm rentals. What made midterm rentals the model you decided to focus on and to scale?
I would say, like you mentioned, I tried several of the strategies before. And before midterm rentals, I grew my Airbnb business, really co-hosting other people's properties, to 30 units. And I had virtual assistants. I know that's something that you're really good at and you have a company for. But even with that, even having virtual assistants, it was still just a lot of management every single week. And I kind of fell into the midterm rentals on accident by just getting a midterm rental booking and saying, oh, this person stayed for 3 months. That's kind of cool. And then just started to do it more intentionally. And then I found, okay, I kind of like this.
Awesome. So you took advantage of an opportunity and then you saw that it was a really good fit for you. You enjoyed it more. So you leaned in.
Yep, exactly.
I love it. That's often such the path we fall into in real estate investing is, we just try things until we see what sticks.
Exactly.
Truthfully.
Yep, for sure.
Now, Bailey, something I'd like to talk about is your remote operations. I understand that you operate properties that you don't live down the street from, right? That you don't really see in person often or maybe even ever. What had to be true operationally before that became possible?
Yeah, well, I guess, started unconventionally. And when I first started, I was in college. I had no money, no experience. So when I started in real estate, I basically long story short, found this partner through a Facebook group that I ended up partnering with in a completely different state. Again, that's the short story of it all. But I started this business completely remotely and I had no choice but to rely on somebody else. And then after college, I moved to a different state that wasn't the state I was investing in. Since then, I've moved to like 3 other states. So I kind of just realized early on, and there's some backstory too, that I want to be able to do this business remotely, whether it was just starting out with a partner to now just doing it by myself. I've just kind of figured out what team I need to be able to do it successfully.
So there are 2 parts of that answer that really resonated with me and that I loved, and that is a common theme, you might say. The first is you started off doing it remotely kind of because you had to, right? Because that's where the opportunity presented itself. And the truth is that we often do get out of our comfort zone when we don't have any other choice. So I appreciate your honesty about that. And then second, that you've realized the value of that and that it's become like a core tenet of like you want to have businesses that don't tie you down to one place, which obviously is something I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah. And one other quick, deeper story on that. When I was growing up, my family moved a couple different times, basically from Florida to Wisconsin to a different part of Florida, back to Wisconsin. So we were bouncing back and forth a lot. And after a couple of those moves, again, the short version, but my dad, he would commute from Tampa to Wisconsin every weekend for 6+ years until from when I was in middle school through high school and even in college. So I don't know how many years that is, 6+ years. So I was like, holy moly, this is crazy. And the only reason why he had to do it is because his job was in person in Florida, but our family kind of liked Wisconsin more. And him and my mom, they're happily married. They've been happily married. So it wasn't any issue other than his work was not remote. So
Right.
even when I was 12, 13, 14 years ago, I just realized early on that I don't want to be tied down anywhere. So that also, I think, gave me some more comfort to when I was looking at real estate that, listen, I'm not doing anything where I have to be tied down anywhere. So that also made the transition maybe a tad bit easier for me.
Yeah, it's really interesting when we can reflect back and see what with the gift of hindsight, how different things shaped us and our path that we follow.
Exactly. That's it all.
Love it. Now, was there anything hard about not being physically involved? Like, there were any pain points, and is there anything you really had to work through with that remote management?
Yeah, I would say a lot of things. The first one is since I'm not there, I'm putting a lot of trust in other people, which can be very hard. Starting out, I felt like I had nothing to lose because again, I was in college. There wasn't really a worst case scenario. I had nothing to my name anyways. So by me pretty much blindly trusting somebody that I met on a Facebook group in a different state, like obviously things could go wrong. I just kind of believed in it and whatever. That was the first step. And fast forward after doing 6 deals with that partner, yeah, things didn't go too well with him. But the things I learned from just those first 6 properties with him was so valuable. And I don't know where I'd be if I started at 19 or 20 years old without any partner or anybody. Now that I'm 25, I already have experience and I don't want any partners personally, but I couldn't be saying that if I didn't go through the experiences and yeah, with somebody who already had experience.
Right. So often, Bailey, you may not know this, but I was an active real estate agent working with a lot of investors for several years. And what I saw again and again is real estate investors who didn't want to take action unless they knew it was going to be a home run, right? Unless they knew that it was going to be amazing with the numbers and with no risk and all this. And I get that. And yet, if something's going to be a single or a double, there's opportunity there. You're still in the positive. I'm not saying do a bad deal, but I'm just saying like if it's a decent deal, doing that deal and what you're going to learn along the way is really, really, really going to help you get those home runs in the future rather than like going up to bat and expecting a home run the first time or being like, I'm just not going to swing. Like if I can't get a home run, I'm not going to swing. That's ridiculous, but it's what real estate investors do all the time. So thank you, Bailey, for sharing that story of like, hey, after 6 deals, the partner didn't work out, but hey, I got 6 deals and I
For
learned,
sure.
and that was amazing. Love that.
Totally. And I cannot agree more with you, by the way, on like just like your first deal does not need to be a home run. I could not agree with you on that statement more.
Thank you. Now, people love to hear the horror stories, the drama, right? So, what broke as you first started doing these long distance, properties and everything? What are some fun, maybe fun now that you've got some space and some distance between them, but some of those crazy stories of what broke, and then what did you do to fix it? What did you learn along the way?
Yeah. So just the first thing that pops in my head was the second deal that I did by myself. So I got out of my partnership with basically this random guy, and now I'm just going solo by myself. I bought one property successfully. Now my second property that I bought was a BRRRR deal. I read about it online on Bigger Pockets, and I'm like, I'm gonna freaking do this thing. So I was living in North Carolina at the time, properties in Indiana, and the short story is I raised money while I was in college. I joined this group called Toastmasters. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's basically like this
Yeah.
public, for those who don't know, it's like a public speaking group of sorts. They have it all over the world, actually. But, anyways, I met this guy in the group and I just told him very early on I was interested in real estate. This is while I was in college, kept that relationship. And then about a year later, when I needed capital to actually do the BRRRR, I gave him a call and he basically just like believed in me. And that's really the only reason why he gave me the money. He wasn't like an expert in BRRRRs or anything. He just believed in me. So
Hmm.
the horror story comes in because first I bought this thing sight unseen. I've been to that town ever in my life. I didn't see the property. I didn't have any proven contractors. I've never done any renovations like by myself. So everything was pretty much brand new to me. The classic horror story of like you hire the contractor who tells you like they're going to show up tomorrow and then a week comes and then they give you all these excuses. I'm over
Yeah.
budget on the property. The way that I was going to finance this property, that fell through. And these are all like self-inflicted errors. But at the same time, while this is all going on, I put another property under contract and basically like I committed to buying this other property. So not only did I need more money for this property, I wasn't sure how I was going to finance it. I already had plans to buy this other property. I got way in over my head, and luckily, like, it worked out. Essentially emptying my bank account to as low as the lender would let me get to. I ended up having for the Burr deal, I ended up having to bring $24,000 to the table just to pay back the lender because my
Mhm.
after repair value was way less than anticipated. So I
Right.
was an extra 24 grand out of pocket for the lender. I was over on renovations. And then 2 weeks later, I also needed to close on another property, which again, totally my fault. I was trying to look for bank statements to like show my accounts, but I have a couple different accounts. I literally had like no money left. So that's probably like, I don't know, that's the first one that pops up of like uncomfortable situations. Everything goes wrong. You just are left with very little money left.
So what did you do? How did you solve it?
Well, luckily, I did have, like, a buffer of money that, like, I was anticipating, so I did have like, the capital that I needed to close the deals, I did have those in my bank account, but that was, like, all I had left, and then also too, like, because I do midterm rentals, so I had to furnish the properties, so I didn't even have
Right.
money to furnish the properties. So for that, I use 0% interest credit cards. I don't recommend it for everybody. I'm not like a just leverage credit cards to the max, but I had no choice. For the Burr property, I did that successfully. I got it rented out, luckily, like right away, really good renter, paying a lot of money. I was very happy about that one. And then for the triplex, the 3 units were already rented. So I slowly ended the leases since they were month by month. So I just did those one at a time instead of just like having everyone leave at the same time. Because if I had to furnish all of them at one time, my credit card limits don't let me go that high. And I could not have paid them off
Right.
that fast.
Right. That's a good point. You had some options there and you pivoted your plan a little bit based on the situation. You sit at this really cool crossroads of remote real estate investor and midterm rental real estate investor. And so, for listeners who are in that situation or who are thinking about going in that situation, let's get a little technical and a little systemsy for them. Pass along some of your wisdom. So, I'm curious what core like systems or tech you love or swear by as somebody who's doing remote midterm rentals?
For sure. Just a note, I basically use all the same tech as I use for my short-term rentals as I do for my midterm rentals. So I was using and still use Hospitable to be my channel manager. I think I saw it on your site. You use Hospitable or have experience. Yeah, yeah, okay, cool. Hospitable is a huge one. I have my Schlage smart locks. That's a huge thing, especially for remote, being able to give people access to the properties, changing door codes. That's huge. I was using Price Labs a lot for the short term side. I don't use it really at all for the midterm side. I'm trying to think what else. I use Airbnb and Furnish Finder and just like my email and phone to call like insurance placement companies.
Right.
But as far as like the real big tech that I use, Hospitable handles it. Oh, and then two other ones that just pop my mind that are huge. Number one, Turbo Tenant. I use them for my
Okay.
leases. They make leases just super easy and fast, and I love them for the leases specifically. And then I use Baselane for bookkeeping, rent collection. I could also use them for leases, but I don't really like their lease feature that much. But yeah, Baselane's kind of my banking and bookkeeping
Awesome.
arm.
I use a lot of systems I've heard great things about. Curious for you, and this is totally for my own reference, but hopefully it's helping some listeners who may have this problem too. So I love the Schlage. We use the Schlage and Code smart locks. Now, my short-term rentals are in Myrtle Beach. I have found that these locks last maybe like a year and a half, and then we've got to replace them. They get fried. I think that they get moisture in them because it's such a humid climate. What has your experience been with these locks?
Yeah, actually did co-host a property in Myrtle Beach specifically, so that's kind of funny. That was a couple years ago, and I do know that in some markets that are on the water or in weirder climates, like the salt water and like the air and like whatever, those really affect the locks, which really stinks. Even my properties in like middle of Indiana, they still last like 3 years maximum, I would say.
Okay.
After 3 years, something's going wrong with them. I've
Mhm.
looked at so many different locks. I haven't found a great solution. I've used Yale before, and I didn't really have much luck with them either. I do feel like, honestly, Schlage is the best option. I'm still looking for a better option, but I do think right now Schlage is the best, and it's either something to kinda just, like, bake into your costs of, like, expecting
Mhm.
if you're in, like, a beach market, okay, every year, but it's kind of a big annual cost for, like, just a door lock. So there's got to be a better way. I don't know, but I've been using Schleg.
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate that. Now, one of the things as a remote investor that I've appreciated is it is doable to get a handyman to replace the Schlage lock and, like, get it all up on our systems and everything. Typically, my VA does have to, like, be available and be on the phone and walk him through it, but it is doable versus some other tech is really tough to do if you're not there, but I'm with you on the Schlage locks.
For sure. And one quick thing on like having the handyman set it up, because this is something I've experienced. One downside of Schlage real quick is like I have properties. Well, either way, I've got several different properties under one Schlage account. So when my handyman logs in, he essentially has access to all my properties. And yes, I can just change the password and like whatever, but that's another bug about Schlage. But anyways,
Now, thinking of security with that, do you use, like, a camera system or anything like that that you would recommend as well?
I don't right now. This has been another topic that I've been like toying with and just like going back and forth with. For short-term rentals, like I used to use Blink cameras, like doorbell cameras and Ring, and those were good. But for some reason, I think when I just started buying midterm rentals of my own, I had just there's so much stuff going on that I just forgot about them. And then I started buying properties, and then I have conversations like this that remind me, and then 100 things pop up. So long story short, I don't use any cameras right now, but I think I really should.
Well, and it's so funny how, like, that happens, right? Like, we're like, "Oh my gosh, we think something is essential," right? We think it's like a tier 1 issue, and life happens, and we live without it, and then we're like, It's not tier 1,
Yeah.
it's tier 2, maybe tier 3," you know? So, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Now, how do you have, I mean, 9 midterm rentals, I think you said, right?
10
That's a
units.
lot.
Yeah. Yep.
10 units, multiple doors with some of those, I get that. So, what are your pro tips with, like, processes and having things standardized so that you're not recreating the wheel every time?
I would say on the furnishing, well, even before that, if I do renovations on properties, which I've done 3 so far, just like burr deals, I guess, I have a very standard, like I use the same floor, same paint, literally everything. And actually, I just spent a lot of time on Lowe's looking for just like just price shopping. I also like just to go to Lowe's and like just look around the store. I think it's fun for some reason, even though I'm personally not handy and I can't actually do anything. Like I don't do any of the handy stuff. I do like going around. So once I picked out all the stuff, I've made adjustments, but I pretty much just use the same stuff for all the renovations. That makes the front end easy, and I know the prices, so that helps. Same thing with the contractor. I've used the same contractor. Well, not the first failed burr deal that I didn't.
Right.
That guy I've never talked to again. I found a great one that I've used since, and I know his prices, and he's very reliable. So that's that. Then when I'm furnishing a property, pretty similar thing. I use pretty similar furniture for all my properties. Usually order from Wayfair. I have like links that are like saved, like storefronts, if you will, that already have all my stuff saved. So I pretty much order the same things from there. I have my Walmart and Amazon lists pretty much ready to go. I have to adjust like the quantities, but that really helps. And then furnishing the proper or for actually putting together the furniture, have, like I said before, sometimes when I buy properties, my bank account goes down to zero. So when that happens, I happily fly out there or drive out there or get there some one way or another, and I'll furnish it myself, or I'll just hire somebody on like Thumbtack or one of my handymen to do it.
If you're a real estate entrepreneur trying to scale while doing everything yourself, there's a better way. The Time and Freedom Starter Pack gives you the exact first steps to reclaim hours each week with real support, including what to hand off, where to start, and simple tools you can put into place right away. Download it for free at adriennegreen.com/starter pack. Now let's get back to the episode.
Well, there's a lot of value there because I feel like investors, we can get bored easily, right? And we can be like, okay, I did this a few times, let me move on. But what you're doing really well, Bailey, is you are rinsing and repeating. You're like, I've built this like genius knowledge bank in my head and on my list of like, here's the best flooring, like you said, mirrors, all those pieces. And you're rinsing and repeating. You're rinsing and repeating until so you can get the maximum return out of the investment that you made to build up that knowledge base. So I love that. I feel like I do the same thing. And, for those investors who love to be creative every time, I'm like, sorry, no, we do the same wall color, same
Yeah.
floor, all the same.
That's the other cool thing about midterm rentals too. Like with short-term rentals, you do have to get like a little bit more unique. If you're just using like a cookie cutter for short-term rentals, it's not going to work as well. Like you need like the cool walls and all these extra whatever. But for a midterm rental, you really just need to build a house or, create a house that somebody like would want to live in. And you don't need anything crazy fancy per se, like, murals or hot tubs or amenities. It's just like good appliances, nice floors, nice paint.
Well, and I pretty much live in midterm rentals now, short and midterm rentals, because I travel full time. And so I've seen what I know I like, but I'm traveling as a family, as digital nomad type setup. I'm curious for your midterm rentals. I know there can be different niches. Do you have certain markets or certain type of guest or anything? Like what dictates what you're going to buy versus what you're going to pass on?
Yeah. So before I even bought any properties, I was co-hosting properties in some of the markets I'm already in. So that gave me some nice luxury of knowing just from seeing the inquiries, like who's actually coming here. And I pretty much saw that you name the niche, like people were coming here, whether they were travel nurses, construction crews, relocations, like you name it. So I kind of felt good about the idea that like any type of property that I'll get like will have some sort of market for it. But with that being said, like my triplex, for example, has two 1-bedroom units right next to a hospital. So I knew, okay, this property is going to be perfect for the travel nurses. And that's been great. I have houses that are 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. And I knew that even though there's demand for travel nurses in this market, they're not going to be renting a 3-bed, 2-bath house unless if I rent by the room, and I have no interest in doing that. So for those properties, it's been construction crews, it's been relocation claims, it's been so many different, I guess, types like that. It's kind of just like different houses catered towards different people. And I always like to also look on Airbnb and Furnish Finder to see who my competitors are. And
Hmm.
if there's other properties in the market and you can tell that they're getting booked out, chances are if you build a better product and you can be competitive on price, you will have success too.
Very true. And I'm curious now, obviously, again, this is from a little bit of a selfish point of view. Let me just tell you how happy I am when we get a rental that has an actual desk chair in it. It doesn't need to even be like an expensive, fancy one, but if it's just not a kitchen chair, like it very much changes my quality of life. But not everybody is like a digital nomad set up like where we are, where my husband and I both sit at a computer a decent chunk of the day sometimes. What have you found are the amenities that are most sought after by guests for your midterm rentals?
I would say, funny enough, like Wi-Fi speed is really big. The amount of times that people ask me, like, "Hey, is the Wi-Fi good here?" Like that's very underrated, but that's one I actually just ordered a range extender that I'm testing out for my triplex because at first, going off tangent, for the triplex, I had 3 different Wi-Fi units. And I'm like, okay, this is really expensive and seems very unnecessary because the units are super small. So then I went down to one, and now I might have to go back to two because my guests are like, hey, we kind of want a little faster speed. So that's one big one. I would say the other thing that people are asking, especially when they are coming from out of state, is they want to make sure that the area is in a safe neighborhood, which sounds like obvious, but people want to be 100% sure that they're not going to come. Because I've seen like reviews on Airbnb where people are like, this area is really sketchy. So that's huge. Fenced in backyards is really big. A lot of my tenants have pets, and I am a pet friendly. I allow pets on my properties. So having that fenced in backyard is another huge like amenity that people look for. I do have a couple properties without dishwashers, which was kind of interesting. Wasn't really sure how it was going to go. And so far, I haven't had a problem not having a dishwasher at the properties where I don't. I've had one guest. I wanted to basically move him to a different unit and move people around. Long story. But he was like, I would move there, but I need a dishwasher. And I'm like, dang it. So that hasn't been too big of an issue. I would say, like, overall, I try to buy properties that have at least space for a dishwasher that I can add in, but I just happen to buy some that didn't. So that hasn't been an issue, though. A smart TV in the living room. That's been big. I'd say those are the main ones that are popping off the top of my head.
That makes sense. And I will tell you, we have been shocked by how many places we go to that don't have smart TVs.
Yeah.
We are now pros at like we have a cable and we just connect our laptop to the television because
Yeah,
the kids like family movie nights, So
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge one. Now, let me ask you this because you're the digital nomad here. Do you expect, well, I guess you're already saying you don't even expect them to have smart TVs anymore. But one, I'll just say this. One thing I don't provide is I don't provide a Netflix login, a YouTube TV login, a Hulu login. Okay. I feel like a couple of years ago, especially with the short-term rental world, there felt like more pressure to provide that. I don't feel that pressure with midterms, and I don't do that, but I was just curious from your experience.
Yeah, no, I think everybody has their own accounts at this point
Yeah.
and can
Yeah.
sign into them. So, no, but it's funny too, like with American needs versus since we travel a lot internationally. Like you mentioned no dishwasher, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I think out of all the places we've been, maybe like one place in Mexico had a dishwasher.
Wow.
But on the flip side, in a lot of these other countries, it's really affordable to eat out a lot more. So you're not cooking as much at home either.
For sure.
Or at least I'm not. Other people maybe, but I'm not. And I think that also speaks to a lot of like the people who do rent midterm rentals, like the travel nurses or other people. They're not necessarily cooking. It's not necessarily their like home with all their stuff. They're not making Thanksgiving dinner there or things like that a lot. So I could see that being less of an issue.
For sure.
You've shared a lot of wisdom with us. Now, if we got a little more like philosophical, right? What are some mistakes, like maybe some like limiting beliefs or some mindset issues you see investors have that kind of keep them? Because you've had a lot of growth in a pretty short amount of time at a pretty young age relative to, other investors. So, you know, what wisdom would you have to others who maybe have some like limiting beliefs that are keeping them from that?
Even like your fifth deal doesn't need to be a home run. Like my deals, unfortunately, have not just strictly gotten better each deal. Like, yes, I have had like my third deal was better than my second deal, and my fifth deal was better than my first deal. But my sixth deal like wasn't a home run. But at the end of the day, like if I'm choosing where to take $30,000 or whatever the down payment's going to be, if at all, if I'm deciding where to put that and you put it in a property that has potential that you plan on holding for the long term, you're going to be way happier in 5 to 10 years by buying a property than you will by putting it into a car or, doing anything that is going to like lose you money. So a lot of times it's funny because even when I buy properties today, like everyone's like, "Oh, are you sure that's a good deal?" Like, "Oh, like they're all like cautious or whatever." Then you'll see a Facebook post where someone who's like my age, 25, like just bought their dream car, and the comments are like, "Congratulations! Oh my God, that's the greatest thing ever!" And then they're
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, I got this for $0 down. My payment's only like a bajillion dollars a month." And it's so you
Yeah.
just have to decide like what you're going to count as a success. To me, obviously, I want the property to cash flow as much as possible. I want to hit home runs, but as long as I'm taking my money and putting it in places that has the potential to grow, like
Right.
that to me is a win. If I'm buying stuff that doesn't make me money, obviously, you have to, there's certain things like you have to buy that aren't going to make you money, whatever. I'm not saying never buy anything for you. I'm not saying that, but you can't always just listen to what other people are saying, because if you do, everyone's going to say, stay in your job until you're 65, invest in the stock
Mm-hmm.
market. When you're 65, you can start living your life and traveling. So you just have to choose who you're listening to. And I'd say the average Joe out there would not tell you that buying a property remotely in a place you've never seen is a good idea. Well, I would tell them that buying all these depreciating assets isn't a good idea either. And I guess there's no right or wrong. It's just depending on what your goals are. And for me,
Right.
this aligns with my goals, and doing stuff that like waiting till 65 to retire and I dropped out of college. That was not a popular opinion. Like that's okay. Everyone's got their different thing, but you just have to follow people that are doing what you want to do, and don't follow people that are not where you want to be.
There's a lot to unpack there. I think you had a lot of great wisdom there. And one of the things out of that I appreciate you sharing the most, Bailey, is that not every one of your deals is a home run. So often we get people on social media, in these things on podcasts, and they only highlight their best deals, right? Their best 1 to 2, maybe 10% of their deals, the ones that really look great. And they have the luxury of time to look back and make that deal look good. It did not look the same when they were quivering in their boots, figuring out whether or not to make that offer, right? And
Exactly.
just couldn't have. And so I appreciate you sharing a lot there. One of those things being, hey, it doesn't have to look like a home run. It probably won't. But you know what? Like you said, you're building this portfolio, you're getting the tax benefits, you're getting the appreciation, you're getting some cash flow that over a few years is going to be transformational.
For sure. Yeah, when you look back, like even the quote unquote worst deals that I've had, even like one of my more recent deals that isn't cash flowing as well as I wanted it to. It didn't appraise for I wanted it to. I'm still looking at it now. And number one, I think I got messed up. I think the appraisal was unfair, but that's a story for another time. I'm still super happy with that deal. I think that I have some really good equity in it. It cash flows less than my other deals, but enough to where I'm happy. And in 5 years, I'm going to be extremely happy that I own that property. Yeah, it's like I said, and like you said, every deal does not have to be perfect.
Well, Bailey, you shared so much with us. If listeners would like to connect with you and continue the conversation, what is the best way for them to reach out?
Yeah, best way, Instagram or YouTube. You can just look up my name, Bailey Kramer. I should pop up. And I've got a ton of just videos all about midterm rentals and such. I give away a lot of free resources, and it's something I'm starting to build up like even more, is just like giving away even more valuable free resources. So you can check those out, YouTube or Instagram.
Perfect. And we'll have that in the show notes for everybody. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you for coming on the podcast. And for our listeners, if you loved today's episode and you know somebody who could benefit from this, please make sure go ahead and send it over so they can hear Bailey's story and wisdom. And then join us again next week for another episode of The Freedom Blueprint.